Oh, these are desperate times indeed when the guy's going to Seafoam. We're gonna put it in the crankcase because I've got somewhat low oil pressure. The car's got 260,000 miles on it. It's been subject to benign neglect, we'll call it. I've used low-grade cheap fuel and low-grade cheap oil, and we're going to pull off the airbox. Down there is our oil sensor and oil pressure sensing plug. We're going to pop that thing out. You can see that tail right there. We're going to pull that out, hook up an actual oil pressure gauge. We're going to run it low and go to different rev range, see what it does at idle 2, 3, 4,000, whatever, RPM. And then we're going to let it warm up and see how much it drops and see what it does at those levels. And that'll be our experiment for today. After we're done with that, we'll dump this thing into the crankcase and give it, 50 miles or something like that. And then we'll change the oil and see if it makes any kind of a difference. I doubt it, but it, was $8, so what the heck? I don't think it can hurt. If it does, that's not the end of the world anyway. There we go. Oh, all of 10 minutes later. So now I've got the port out, and I've put a coupler and a actual analog pressure gauge on this thing, which is good. You have to basically unhook the throttle body tube, uncover the airbox, pull out the airbox to get access to it. Now we're going to put the airbox back in. Just let it sit there, and then we'll have the air go in, and we'll hook up the air tube, and we'll let it run. Well, that was all good fun. Now we're going to let it cool down, and then I'll pull out the oil pressure gauge, put in the sensor, throw some Seafoam into the oil tank, see what we get. Ooh, I almost forgot. One thing I've seen in everybody that does a video about Seafoam is that they need to test the color and quality of their oil beforehand. And how much there is. By the way, this is a relatively recent oil change, and we're talking 2 months ago, and if it's 2,000 miles, I'll be shocked. I think it's only maybe 200 miles. She's been off the road. Anyway, doesn't that look incredibly brown and clear? Why, yes, this is our hot oil from our engine. There's our dipstick. Yeah. Anyway. She looks lovely. So I guess the theory is that if we put the Seafoam in and it loosens all sorts of stuff that it's supposed to loosen, why, it'll turn black because we'll have all sorts of bad stuff floating around our oil, and we'll dump it out from there. Okay. So there's our starting point. Might as well put it in now. And this is a big engine. It's a 4-liter V8. 4.2. And they say to put in an ounce of Seafoam for every quart of oil. This thing takes almost 8 quarts on an oil change and filter. And this is a 16-ounce can that I have here. So I'm going to pour in roughly half of it. You know, it's got a child-proof lock, so I better get one of my kids in here to do this for me. That was easy. Now what? You can do it left-handed. That's how easy it is. I thought there might be something like that in there, which is nice. Hey! Easy opening can. Roughly half, huh? And people out there probably, don't do that to your car, it's too late, no! And there's no end of gunk in this engine. That feels like about half, a little bit more. My theory is I can't really hurt it too much. That's half. Given its age, given its behaviors, maybe this will do something. I doubt it, but $8, whatever. My wife tells me that yes, the compression was truly not going up all that much. Oil pressure was not going up all that much as it when it was warmed up, as when it was cold. Okay, so the idea here is I will run this thing after I unhook that and put it back together. I'm even going to drive it around 50-60 miles and let it Seafoam work its disintegrating magic on whatever gunk is inside of its channels and body and fluid parts and all that. We'll do the old dipstick and see, is it now darker than what we have here? And then we'll change the oil. Put in, frankly, I'm going to put in a heavier viscosity oil. I've been running 10W30 in this thing, and you know, it's a high mileage, 258,000 miles plus, and maybe it's time to treat it to something a little heavier. Or maybe it's just a bad sensor ground somewhere. Who knows? Fun. Alright, I put in the Seafoam into the engine crankcase at 258, 421. Now if I could just get my, there we go. We'll see what happens after 1050 miles, right? And we're off. Everything's okay up there. Just give it a minute, it'll turn itself bad. Alright, well, we put 18 miles on it. Notice my idle's actually a little bit lower, and as I turn in to go up a hill, it actually stalled on me, which it never does. I was going to stop anyway and listen to the engine, but given that, maybe something's actually going on down in there with the Seafoam. Come back down to idle, and that's about normal. But it did idle it a little lower than that. So anyway, I made it back home to the garage, so at least I didn't get towed. And yeah, I'll check the color of the oil here, and then we'll call it a day. What could be more exciting than checking the color of your oil after a 20-minute drive? Why, it's the same. What a you can't see. I mean, yeah. Who knows? We'll keep driving the poor thing. I will say this. What a nice car. I drove it. I'm telling you, it is so... it's a little darker, I suppose. It is such a step up from the A4 with the V6, which is fun and light and nimble and not fast, and the S4, which is a total monster. Yeah, I give that a little darker. It's doing something, maybe. And it's so much more sophisticated than my Mercedes. I didn't just bend that thing, did I? Anyway, it's just amazing how refined this car is for a 20-year-old beast. But that's just because I love it.